I always say when people say natural, I go poison ivy's natural, arsenic's natural. Doesn't mean it's better for your skin. It might be better for planet Earth, but not necessarily for your skin.
Welcome to another episode of Bite Back with Abbey Sharp, where I dismantle diet culture rules, call out the charlatans spinning the pseudoscience, and help you achieve food freedom for good. Today's episode, we are going to be talking all things skincare. And as I inch closer to 40, I am personally super invested in all the tips. But skincare isn't just about aesthetics. It's your body's largest organ and one of its most powerful storytellers. From persistent breakouts and dryness to dullness or sensitivity, what's happening on the surface may tell us something about what's going on inside. Hormones, gut health, nutrition, hydration, stress levels, sleep quality, and even immune function all play a role in shaping the look, feel, and health of your skin. And to help me unpack it all is Dr. Sandy Skotnicki, a Toronto-based dermatologist, professor at the University of Toronto, podcast host, and author of the book Beyond the Soap. As an expert on all things skin, I am so excited to be chatting with her on what women actually need in their skincare routine, skincare facts versus fiction, and the role that the skin barrier, stress, sleep, and our gut health play in our skin health. And at the end, I will be going through the unique role that diet plays in conditions like acne, eczema, and psoriasis. And of course, I'll be sharing the best foods for support. If you're on a mission to get healthy, glowing skin, then this episode is a must listen. I already know I am going to learn so much from Sandy, and I absolutely know that you will too. Now, a quick note that the information in this episode is not a replacement for personalized health advice, so always speak to your doctor or dermatologist about your unique needs. Also, I would love if you would subscribe to the podcast wherever you are listening. And please do leave me a little review and a comment because it really, truly does help me out. Bite Back with Abbey Sharp is proudly sponsored by Tena Ultimate Incontinence Underwear for Women. Incontinence is a common condition for many women throughout their lives. You're not alone. Tena Ultimate Underwear is made of 100% breathable materials to help protect your skin. It provides triple protection against leaks, odor, and moisture. You can do everything or absolutely nothing. That's the freedom to live your way with Tena Ultimate Underwear. Tena Ultimate Underwear, comfort that keeps going like you. Well, Sandy, thank you so much for joining me.
It's a real pleasure to be here. Thanks.
Okay, so there is like no shortage of, skincare products and procedures being promoted online. And it's so hard to know what is hype and what is an actual hack. And obviously everybody's different. All of our needs are unique. But if you were to just pick a handful of products, just to kick us off here, what would be the most essential products for women to have?
Well, first of all, with your first comment, I mean, it's such a problem now. Yeah. Everybody's so confused. Mm-hmm. And that's why, we need more information podcasts and not 10-second,
influencer clips. Yeah.
Right, or a 30-second reel.
Right.
What is the, in my bag, people say, what's in my bag? I mean, obviously I'm a dermatologist. I'm going to say sunscreen.
Yes.
I like one of the tips and tricks is to have a sunscreen powder. You're not going to use sunscreen powder as a one-off, but it's nice to have it, throw it in your bag. A little shout out to Color Science, as I have no association with them. I think they have the best powder. They've actually shown some studies, they have done some studies to show. So that's a great tip. And as far as my nighttime routine, is this what you're getting at? I do exactly what I would tell my patients. I use something for decreasing aging or rolling back aging. I don't like the term anti-aging. So I use retinols. I use peptides. I don't like to wash my face aggressively. I have very sensitive skin, so I typically use a micellar water wash. My favorite is Bioderma. And moisturizer, I might use a little bit more. I cycle it. If a retinol is too irritating, or a peptide, a serum underneath a moisturizer. And my moisturizers vary because I have so many ones that I try.
Right.
So, and I think that's the whole key is once you find something you like, stick with it. Or if you're that type of person who always likes to try something, just be careful because you can react and you can't go by the hype.
Right. And if you're putting like a million things on your face at the same time, you don't know what you reacted to.
That's the whole point.
Yeah.
And that's what a lot of my book is about. And so like it's about eliminating, just like a product, like a diet elimination, you can product eliminate. So whenever you've had a reaction, yes, take everything away. Don't throw it out. Go back to 3 or 4 things that have very little in them and then reintroduce one product per week.
Okay. That is a really great, some great tips there to start us off. Okay. And, we're going to talk about a lot of things today. And I want to just preface that we're going to be focusing mainly on like lifestyle factors when it comes to skin, but there's a lot of other non-controllable factors in play, like genetics, just getting older, different life stages, pregnancy, postpartum, menopause, etc., medications, infections, all that jazz. But I want to kind of start with the role of the gut, because this is something that I'm interested in. And a lot of people don't know that we have this like bi-directional, this two-way communication street called the skin-gut axis.
Yes.
And when we see dysbiosis, we tend to potentially see, inflammation or, immune dysfunction or nutrient deficiencies, malabsorption, and all that can affect the skin. So can you just talk a little bit about some of the ways that you might see like gut dysbiosis appear or present itself on the skin?
I kind of look at it slightly different than you as a dermatologist. And you think about when I went to medical school, which I am dating myself now, it's about 30 years ago plus, we never even talked about how food affects the skin.
Right.
So my general statement, and I did do a little bit of research on some of the studies, but generally, like let's say you came in to see me as a patient. At your age, you would get adult acne, sort of cyclical around your cycle, you get a cyst or two. And then you say to me, okay, I'm going to do X, Y, and Z that you've told me to do, Dr. Skotnicki, but what about my diet? So this is where I kind of come in as a generally like, okay, what is the science? Where are the studies at? So the number one thing is anti-inflammatory diets.
Yes.
Okay. So if you have an inflammation, whether that's an inflammation in the skin, inflammation in your joint, we could be talking about somebody with arthritis.
Right.
I would say follow an anti-inflammatory diet. I'm sure there's an
we'll talk a lot
episode
about
on
that too. Yeah.
Eat some blueberries, leafy greens, etc. The next thing, and there's actually now some really good science on high glycemic foods.
Right.
So when you eat, I always use this as an example with my patients, and I don't mean to be, because you're the dietitian, but when you drink a glass of orange juice, your sugar spikes. You see on a graph.
Yep.
When you eat an orange, because you've got the fiber, you got everything else, the glycemic or sugar spike is low. And so when you have that high spike, you induce insulin growth factors. And that drives an inflammatory response, basically drives cortisol. Cortisol is turned into testosterone. Testosterone drives acne. So I do think there's a big role with foods that cause high glycemic spikes. And people, the old adage, I ate chocolate and I got acne. I mean, there's actually now some science. And then the last thing is the probiotic. So when I looked at the probiotic data, there was one actually really good 12-week randomized controlled double-blind study, which for your listeners, if you don't know, I'm sure you do, that means it's a good study.
Right.
Now, I don't know how robust it was or the power, but they looked at oral probiotic supplements and for people with acne between 12 to 30 years old. And there was a 50% improvement compared to benzoyl peroxide. So there is the research is happening. There is something to, if you have a dysbiosis. When I talk to microbiome researchers, like I had a guest on, we were talking about before the show, that he worked in, all the major microbiome labs in the world. We don't know exactly which one to give.
Right. We don't know.
You can't suggest something to treat a disease if you don't know what the normal is.
Right.
What is the normal microbiome of the skin? What is the normal microbiome of the gut? Well, we don't really know that. And there's no normal because if you live in the desert or you live in a jungle or you live in a city, it's, and your diet is X, Y, Z, it's all going to be different. So it's one of the biggest nuts we have to crack. But it doesn't mean we can't try using something. For acne, there's topical probiotics that have been studied. I actually suggest oral live microbiome or bacteria when I'm giving them antibiotics for longer than 4 weeks. There's some study that actually it might enhance the results of the antibiotic use. There was a study that showed giving antibiotics for acne with probiotic and without it was, again, not a great robust study, but there was something to it. And then immune modulation. There was one study looking at giving a probiotic that increased an anti-inflammatory mediator in the gut.
Oh, interesting.
So if you decrease, again, inflammation in the body, are you going to have an improved result when you give an acne treatment? So I think there's a lot that we still need to learn, and it's a very interesting and fascinating topic. And it's something that as a physician, you don't know about, you should really educate yourself.
Yeah, and if not, speak to a colleague who may have some more, information. But you're right. Like the challenge with the gut is we know there's a connection. We just aren't sure what the specific solution is
Right,
yet.
because we don't know what the norm is.
Because we don't know what the norm is. Absolutely hit it on the head. And, I've also read some very interesting studies looking at, I know, the idea of quote unquote leaky gut is a very controversial topic in the science space, but the more, technical term, intestinal permeability, there is some, linkage there to some of those more inflammatory skin disorders like psoriasis, eczema, acne, things like that. They've looked at children with eczema and noticed that they may have lower levels of some of the more beneficial strains of bifidobacterium in their gut.
There's a study on that.
So that's interesting. Even things like SIBO, which is a functional gut disorder, they've seen that nearly 50% of rosacea patients also have SIBO. So we know there's obviously connections here. We just don't always know what the solution is.
Yeah, and I think the trouble with all that, when you have an area that is sort of still evolving, that's when you get a lot of charlatans,
Of
right?
course.
Yeah.
Of course.
So my son, as I was telling you, has IBS, and he tried the SIBO diet, which isn't, or SIBO's the overgrowth,
Yes,
right?
it is, correct.
But he tried what's the acronym for the diet?
The SIBO is, the diet is the elemental diet.
Yeah. Okay. I don't know. He tried a couple.
Yes.
But
low FODMAP. Yes,
That's
yes.
it. Yeah. And he did see some response, but it's not easy to follow.
Oh, it's terribly hard. It's terribly hard. It's not even meant to be a long-term solution. You have to basically eradicate the SIBO. And actually, we do have an episode on SIBO, so definitely check that out. But okay, so switching gears here, because and this is actually quite related, in fact, because there's a gut skin axis and there's a gut brain axis. So
Yes.
I want to talk about the role of stress when it comes to skin, because that also may play a role. Can you kind of talk a little bit about that?
Well, I interviewed a psychiatrist dermatologist.
Interesting combo.
She was fascinating. I think there is, again, when I go back to my 30 years ago when I was in med school, not talking about anything that wasn't specifically organ driven or medicine driven. So I think the biggest issue there is sleep, especially like we probably don't sleep a lot, you and I. And then just, stress. I mean, we know stress increases cortisol. And then when you drive cortisol, you drive inflammation. It's all connected.
Yes.
It's all connected. And there's countless studies now, some of them very, very good, to show that, if you don't sleep well, you age faster. If you can see stress in people's faces.
Yes.
And you can see, like, I try to go on a retreat now once a year where I sort of disengage, don't read, don't do anything. I come back and people go, wow, what did you do? I go, I basically did nothing for a week. And between that and sleeping is more cost effective than a lot of,
That's why I looked so much better before kids, guys.
Yeah. Well, wait, just wait. You know what they say?
And stress.
Well, when the kids get older, there's fewer problems, but
They're bigger problems.
They're bigger problems.
I don't know that it's better.
Yeah. Enjoy what you can.
Yeah. Sleep is a big one, right? Like a lot of us are not getting the sleep. We live in this like hustle culture where everyone's promoting like you got to grind it out at night and then like get up for this like 4 a.m. morning routine as like part of your wellness routine. Like that's seen as like a flex online. But obviously, like you said, it can do more damage than good because, sleep is this time for our bodies to, down-regulate inflammation and release these anti-inflammatory hormones and repair skin cells and tissues and produce collagen and all that. So without that deep restorative sleep, we do see an increase in these like pro-inflammatory cytokines and a decline in immunity and boost in cortisol, like you said, insulin as well, which can play a role in acne. So these things are absolutely connected.
And so it's not just about sleeping, it's about sleeping well.
Well, yeah. So, those cold temperatures, dark room,
Yeah.
getting rid of the technology before bed, like,
Yeah.
real sleep hygiene 101.
I know.
And we
hard to do.
know it's just very hard to actually do it, especially because we live in this like digital age where we're just like addicted to our screens.
A good tip is to get an old-fashioned alarm clock.
Yes.
And leave your phone downstairs.
I love
right
that.
before bed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good old fashioned.
Yeah.
Ours, when we were growing up, it used to always just like turn the radio on. So yeah, there's
Lots of things.
we could do.
But you're right. To finish off on that, the stress and lack of sleep, you wear it on your face.
You wear it on your face. And actually, that just got me thinking too about like, okay, dark circles and like puffy eyes. Like, what is that about?
Such a common question we get asked. I would say that the vast majority of that is genetics. Some people just have thinner skin there, their vasculature, their blood vessels, you just see more readily. They have a deeper groove. A lot of that is genetics. Then, some things like if they have persistent rhinitis, which is, allergy season in the runny nose, or they have chronic sinusitis, like that can cause congestion, and asthma. So any of those kind of, and again, it's inflammation in the area, but that's not a large percentage of people. The vast majority of it is unfortunately genetics.
Got it. Okay. So another thing that we keep hearing a lot about is the kind of, the skin barrier.
Yeah.
Can you just define what the skin barrier is, and then we'll kind of talk more about it?
Well, actually, I wanted to jump in there when you were talking about the leaky gut. So the gut lining is an extension of the epidermis, right? When we're being made in utero, there's the ectoderm, endoderm, mesoderm. So ectoderm is all of our outside skin, but it's also all the lining inside. They're similar.
Right.
So if you have a leaky gut, that means the cells aren't, right beside each other. That's what the skin barrier is. So I like to make an analogy of a brick wall. So the very outer layer of our skin is called the stratum corneum, and it's actually dead. The cells are dead there. They're desiccated, and they're like a brick wall. So the bricks are the cells, the mortar is the contour in between, which is the lipids.
Right.
So if you have, and that's when it's tight and the wall is working well, your skin barrier is working well. When the mortar is decreased and the cells are further apart, which you can also use the term leaky.
Totally.
That's a skin barrier that's not working well. The problem I have, because it's such a trendy thing right now, there's this like, I damaged my skin barrier forever. Well, no, I mean, because our skin turns over every 30 days. So every 30 days, you're getting that new wall. So if you kind of used too much exfoliant and you washed a little aggressively and you did too many masks, okay, do nothing. And then a month later, it'll repair itself. So there's all this like, I've damaged it forever kind of stuff on social media, which is not scientifically possible.
Right. So with the skin barrier, like what are some things that you see causing this damage?
Well, I mean, it's everything we do to our skin, right? Because, well, first of all, just water itself will damage your skin barrier.
Oh.
Well, think about it. So you got this brick wall, the mortar is lipids. What dissolves lipids? Water. The hotter the water, the higher the pH of the water, so the more alkaline the water, the more you damage your mortar.
So just the act of husband showers, cold husband showers.
So the act of washing, then you add detergent or cleansers or soaps or whatever terminology you want to use. Soaps are actually more damaging than cleansers because they're usually high pH. The higher the pH, the more damaging to our skin barrier. Our skin is a pH of 4 to 6. Okay, so it's acidic and on a gradient. And when you alkalize the skin through washing and through high pH soaps, you damage the skin barrier more. So you want to have pH adjusted cleansers. That's all where the whole pH things. The pH is important to maintain the skin barrier. So when you do that, that will make the skin barrier dysfunctional. What else can make it? Well, you can take it off. You can exfoliate it. With like we don't need 11-year-olds using retinol and glycolic acid, and because their skin barrier isn't fully formed. Like it is, but it's not working as well.
Okay.
And, when you over exfoliate, those are the main two things that damage our skin barrier.
So all us millennials with the St. Ives apricot scrub was not a good plan. I'm filing that one under like bad beauty, hacks with the tanning beds and the sunning in my hair and like the ironing my hair on the ironing
Okay,
board.
never did that one.
Oh God. And then what do we do to repair it? Or does it just repair itself? You just like do nothing?
So again, I mean, if you do nothing, your skin does regenerate in 30 days. So, and the skin barrier, like you're still washing and cleaning. So if you've really done a really bad job, you kind of want to repair it. How do you repair it? You replace the mortar. What is the mortar made out of? Lipids. So sphingosphylline, ceramides, all those catchy words you hear. I mean, ceramides is the best thing. The question always was like, if you put it in a cream, does it actually absorb into the layers of the skin? And a few companies have shown that it does. But everybody and their mother is making it in their garage. So like there is a reason why you want to use some companies that actually have some science behind them.
Okay, speaking of science behind them and not science behind them. So what about the beef tallow thing? Should we be like slathering ourselves in just like butter, fat, oils?
Well, beef tallow, I mean, it's got some things in it. It's got some specific amino acids and things that repair the barrier. I can't remember all the details, but it stinks.
Yeah.
And it's heavy and it can cause acne. You're better served with using things that, will have a same result. I guess the argument there is it's more natural, it's cheaper. But I always say, when people say natural, I go, poison ivy's natural, arsenic's natural. It doesn't make it's better for your skin. It might be better for planet Earth. And so if you're putting beef tallow and when you wash it off, it's going down the drain, it's probably better for the earth, but not necessarily for your skin.
Yeah, I was going to talk about that because actually on the podcast, we talk a lot about the appeal to nature's fallacy, which is, basically this assumption that because it comes from nature, that it's inherently better, safer, healthier.
It is for the earth.
Fair.
But not necessarily for our skin or our bodies. I mean, some of the most powerful toxic medications we have in medicine come from plants. Do you know what where digoxin comes from?
No.
Do you know what digoxin does?
No.
If you want to kill somebody,
okay,
you could take a syringe and put digoxin. It's a heart medication. It comes from foxglove.
Oh, I love foxglove. They're so pretty.
That's why I
know that they're bad. They're dangerous.
Plant it around your pets.
No, I know.
Because if they eat it, they die.
But they die.
So that fallacy of, again, the plant. But on the flip side, there's so many miraculous drugs and good things that come from plants. But this catch-all, just because it's natural is better, is not. And unfortunately for the skin, many times it isn't.
Right. And can you give us any other examples of like quote unquote natural products that are, may cause more harm than good?
Well, I mean, that the harm sometimes is, from me, like my academic interest is reactions, people that come in and have had bad reactions to skincare. I got a rash, I got a burning, it was whatever, my acne got worse. So it's ingredients that actually can aggravate the skin. Like the digoxin example, they're not going to kill you. But the problem is it's most of the essential oils. Now, the poison's in the dosage. I have arguments with toxicologists and perfume people online. Perfumes can be good if the dosage is properly. Not all of them are bad. So dosage is important. But, it's mostly the essential oils where people often get reactions. And the number one cause of allergic reaction and irritant reaction to skincare is from fragrance, both synthetic and natural.
Wow. Yeah, that doesn't surprise me. I'm definitely sensitive. I really have to be careful about that.
Yeah,
but sometimes you don't even know if just reading these long lists, if it has some kind of fragrance, even if it's not, it might not say perfume.
Right.
But
well, the legislation is going to change in Canada. I did a whole episode on regulation and labeling. So in Europe, if you see fragrance on a bottle, so fragrance or perfume is a placeholder name, because you actually don't know what's in that, because it's often proprietary. What makes Pantene smell like Pantene, and they don't want to give that recipe away. But if there's kind of identified 26 fragrance allergens that are quite problematic from an allergy point of view, from sensitization, and now another 100 and something, and many of which are essential extracts. So if you want to, as a company, use any of those 100 plus fragrance molecules in your fragrance recipe, you have to put it on the label.
Incredibly helpful. Now, I want to go back to something that you mentioned earlier about 11-year-olds wearing retinol, because there's this whole kind of Sephora tween culture with all these Gen Z skincare influencers putting all these things on their face, products that when I was that age, I never would I have thought about retinol. I didn't even think about retinol until I was 30.
Right.
So what are the risks here, and what should parents be looking out for?
I think the number one, and not to keep plugging my podcast here, but we did a whole episode on tweens. And I think when I did all the research, I think the number one thing, especially, I have 3 sons, you have 2 sons.
Yeah.
I don't have a daughter, but my friends that have daughters and they're teenagers, you either have, a very easy relationship with your daughter, or you're just constantly just butting heads. I think what you want to do is not be dismissive. Because when you are dismissive, the teen will just go out and buy stuff anyway. So I think that's the number one point to take home that I got when I was researching for the topic and everything that I read. And then, try to make it fun and do a little research together, because a lot of them are very knowledgeable and are like, okay, well, listen, this person wrote this and this, read about everything, and then go to Sephora together and say, well, let's try to get products that are fragrance free. Let's try to, peptides seem to be safe. They're okay. We can use that. The whole Haley Berry, what's Bieber, hers all peptides. I mean, so you can focus on, ingredients that have safety and make it fun and do it together. I think face masks, those, you can get bamboo ones.
Those, yeah.
They can be biodegradable. You can get fragrance-free ones, or maybe something like with watermelon, and they have a sleepover. It can be fun. You can have formaldehyde-free nail polish. There are ways of doing it, and you do it together, and you come out with products that, get the boring stuff for the body wash, maybe the shampoo, and then let them have some fun with some other things. Yeah. But I would encourage the parents to go with them when possible. I think that's a way of doing it.
No, of course. I mean, from my perspective, a lot of my job, I'm a dietitian, but a lot of my job is really commenting on, the dangers of what we see on social media every day when it comes to just our own mental and physical health. And so this is such an old person thing to say, but I worry about the young people and their exposure to social media, and the fact that they, are used to seeing all skin through a filter, through this glowy, sparkly filter, all pores are gone. That's not real life. They don't even know what real skin looks like.
And now it creates, with generative AI, it's going to be even worse.
Even worse. I actually just saw this TikTok recently where people were commenting on the real images of all the celebrities at the Met Gala, because they were real unedited skin, and they were this is real skin, this is real skin, this is real skin, because normally we see these celebrities after they've been edited and filtered, right? And so we need more of that, because I do think there's this this fear of the unknown of what real skin looks like through the stages. And I just always worry that when, young people's kind of wellness, the idea of wellness is centered in this aesthetic perfection, that it displaces other really important acts of self-care, whether it's friendships and play and movement and, emotional regulation and all those other things, because their idea of wellness is just putting 10 products on their skin to look a certain way.
And that's really as parents, who always say we want our kids to be happy. Right. Well, if you look at happiness, we were talking about this earlier. It's your relationships with other people. It's giving back to society. It's cultivating purpose in life. It's not about your skincare. No. So I mean, but I think what I have evolved as a dermatologist through all this stuff that I do in social media is you can't just dismiss it. Yep. So you have to be part of the discussion, especially as a dermatologist. We have to be part of the discussion, and you have to somewhat make it fun and especially as a parent, and try to be part of the conversation.
Yeah, I love that. Okay, I want to just close off, because sometimes I like to do this kind of quick fire, hype versus hoax segment in some of my episodes. And there's obviously so many that we could cover. But okay, the first one, and I know the answer because, I'm very into this myself. Okay, you don't need sunscreen on a cloudy day.
Oh, that's incorrect.
Yes. I feel like I feel so vindicated.
Well, actually,
because...
the clouds filter out the UVB rays, which are the ones that kind of give you the sunburn, but the UVA rays still go through. I mean, a lot of it still goes through. And those are the more damaging ones that are associated with skin aging and skin cancer.
Right.
They also go through windows.
Ooh, gotta get those blinds down. You gotta wear sunscreen in the house at all times, even if you don't leave the house, folks. Okay, oily or acne prone skin does not need a moisturizer.
I'm going to even take that further. No skin really needs a moisturizer, especially young people.
Fair.
Right?
Yes.
Moisturizer replaces, something that you've removed through washing.
Right.
It's not anti-aging, unless it has an active that potentially does something. So basic moisturizer is not necessary. If you are feeling like you're dry, you can use it. You can also use it if you're oily because, some people like the sensation. It's self-care again.
Right.
But, choose your moisturizer wisely if you're oily.
Okay, that's very helpful. You can shrink your pores in some way or another. Can you?
Well, a pore is very deep, by the way, and we're born with, it's just like so people say, can I get more hair follicles? No, you're only born with so many. So you're born with so many pores.
Right.
And they're deep. So you can increase the scaffolding around a pore. Think of it like a hole. So you can increase the scaffolding with things that increase collagen or elastin. That takes years. And so if you use, your products like retin-A or glycolic acid over the years, your pores will continue to improve. If you want to do it fast, you can do things that damage your pore and make it regrow. So those are like microneedling, and then the next level would be fractionated injury with laser. So you're putting holes into the skin, which seems counterintuitive.
Yeah.
And then you're reforming the skin. The skin's regrowing, and when it regrows, the pores can be tighter.
Oh, okay. The best way to get rid of a pimple is to pop it.
No.
So the
Can I just say no?
Dr. Pimple Popper.
Well, she's actually removing large
Yes.
epidermal
Correct.
and
Yep.
pilar cysts. If you have a blackhead, that's the only thing as a dermatologist we say you can take a tissue and very gently with a tissue try to exfoliate. It's good to do, not exfoliate, to express it after a shower where your skin's a little bit more moist and the pores are a little bit more open. But if you have like a closed pimple, no. If you have a big pustule, like no one wants to ruck around with a big pustule. Yeah. Again, very gently with a tissue, you can pop that, not aggressively. Because I always tell people when you push a pimple, it's not only going up, it's also going down. You're pushing inflammation down. So I hope that answers the question.
That does. And then after you pop that pimple, what do you do? Like, what do you put on it?
Yeah. Well, if you have an opening, you want to make sure that it's disinfected, like wash your face. You could put some acne medicine over top, like salicylic acid if it's over the counter, benzoyl peroxide, or something that your dermatologist gave you.
Great. Okay.
Yeah.
That's good to know. And what about like just generally all of these kind of TikTok trends? Are there any weird things that you're seeing people put on their face and you're like, why? Don't do that. We talked about the beef tallow earlier, but what else?
So my partner in crime, who I do my podcast with, she's a TikTok fanatic. So I actually feel like I don't have to. I'm not a big TikToker. I am on Instagram. So some of the trends that we kind of looked at, DIY sunscreen, big no-no. Okay, big no-no. We chatted about DNA, salmon DNA. There's actually some studies. I don't know. Like it's like they take this DNA and the ribonucleus, the RNA from salmon sperm, because it's similar to human. And then they're injecting that. So it seems kind of weird, but there is some studies. Why are they doing that? Rejuvenation, it's DNA, it's RNA.
All right, yeah.
I know, it's crazy. Other trends, you probably know more.
Snail mucin. What is that?
Well, the snail mucin, I mean, it's just, again, it's really, really, it's going to have a lot of hyaluronic acid, polysaccharides, which all of those things are, like, humectant's going to absorb water. So you're going to look like puffy and glassy and everything, but it's gone in hours to a day.
Oh,
and it's gross.
That seems like not worth not a good ROI for putting snail gunk on your face.
No, it's kind of gross. Yeah.
Okay. Well, this was so helpful. Thank you so much, Sandy. And you have a podcast, Skin to It.
Yes.
And a book.
Yes.
The book's called
Beyond Soap.
Beyond Soap. Excellent. So I'm going to be leaving links to all of that below, so you can check out lots of great resources on your website and channel. So definitely check that out.
Thank you so much for having me on.
Thank you. That was so incredibly helpful. Definitely some really, really good reminders here about how our overall health can impact our skin. Now, I did want to just kind of zone in a little bit on nutrition best practices for some specific skin conditions. And the first one is acne. So, acne is incredibly complicated, but we do know that excess sebum, aka oil, can clog pores and cause breakouts, and the hormones insulin and IGF-1 are common triggers for this sebum production. So, as Sandy mentioned earlier, that means that foods that stimulate insulin and IGF-1, including dairy, especially skim milk dairy, as well as high glycemic foods like white bread and other refined carbs, may play a role. So, research has found that diets rich in refined carbs are associated with 30% greater risk of acne development. As for dairy, many studies have shown an association with acne, but not all dairy is necessarily made equal. In fact, some studies show that skim milk over higher fat options are potentially the greatest culprits because skim milk dairy lacks the fat to buffer the blood sugar response, and it tends to have more pore clogging compounds just because of how it's processed. So, the general recommendations here for acne is to focus on high fiber carbohydrates like whole grains, berries, and starchy vegetables, and dress up your naked carbs with protein, fiber, and healthy fats, aka use my hunger crushing combo method. And then when it comes to dairy, experiment to see if it does trigger your acne because everyone is going to be unique, and potentially consider swapping out skim milk for fuller fat or plant based alternatives. Next, let's talk about eczema. So, in recent years, there has been a lot of chatter about cutting out dairy or gluten or eggs to help with eczema flares. And the truth is, there will be plenty of people who do see improvements in their skin when they cut out a specific ingredient. But unfortunately, the research in this is wildly inconclusive because everyone's unique food intolerances will vary. Eczema is ultimately an inflammatory and immune related condition that is intimately linked to the health of our gut. So, as Sandy and I touched on earlier, there are a few specific probiotic strains that have been studied for eczema, but again, this is not a one size fits all solution, and results do seem to vary. There's also emerging evidence on the use of anti inflammatory or immune supporting nutrients like omega 3 healthy fats and vitamin D. So, if you are struggling with eczema, my focus would be on working with a dietitian on a safe elimination and reintroduction diet to see if there may be some specific food triggers. We may also want to consider some probiotics to improve microbiome diversity. And finally, focusing on omega 3 rich foods like fatty fish, flax seeds, and walnuts, and vitamin D from supplements, fortified milk, and egg yolks. Next up, psoriasis. So, first of all, it's very important to know that psoriasis is an inflammatory autoimmune condition that cannot be cured or prevented with diet. But that doesn't mean that nutrition can't help. So, similar to eczema, strategies to improve the gut and reduce inflammation may be key here. So, we ideally want to focus on anti inflammatory foods like fatty fish, cruciferous veggies, leafy greens, berries, and heart healthy oils like olive oil, plus vitamin D, which has been shown to help reduce inflammation. And then we also may want to reduce more of those pro inflammatory ultra processed foods that are rich in saturated fats, trans fats, and refined sugars. There's also some emerging research that bifidobacterium and lactobacillus probiotics may potentially also help. But because psoriasis can be so debilitatingly painful, we may also want to take additional strategies to limit triggers. The big one seems to be alcohol, which studies have found to increase inflammation, gut dysbiosis, and psoriasis severity. And because gluten sensitivity and celiac disease does appear to be more prevalent in psoriasis patients, some research suggests that a gluten-free diet may help. Again, this is highly individualized and triggers will ultimately vary, so please do work with a dietitian to find the best strategies for you. Next is rosacea. Like some of the other conditions that we've discussed, rosacea is characterized by skin inflammation and redness, and triggers do seem to be highly individualized. That said, there are a few specific foods that seem to be some of the more common culprits, including spicy foods, alcohol, cinnamon containing foods like tomatoes, citrus fruits, and chocolate, and high histamine foods like aged cheese, sauerkraut, and processed meat. So, again, do work with a dietitian on a proper elimination and reintroduction strategy to see which may be a trigger for some of your flares. As for what to add, it's really back to Skin 101. So, focusing on anti inflammatory foods, including those rich in omega 6 and fiber rich plants that nourish the gut. Finally, let's talk about premature skin aging and dullness. Now, just a quick little reminder here, folks, that it is normal and natural for our skin to not look like it did in high school. But it's also normal to want to look like as healthy as it can. So here's basically what we know. Not surprisingly, most research has shown that a diet rich in fruits, vegetables, unsaturated fats, and antioxidants is your best bet for preventing premature aging. More specifically, studies suggest that foods rich in the antioxidants vitamin E, C, and carotenoids found in orange veggies and tomatoes have some sun protective properties, which may also help to slow the effects of photoaging on the skin. You can also consider foods that support collagen synthesis, because we know that our natural collagen production decreases with age. So these would include things like bone broth, gelatin, and of course collagen supplements, which research shows can improve skin elasticity, hydration, and potentially also reduce wrinkles. So the takeaway here is to focus on lots of colorful plants plus protein to support that natural glow. As you can probably tell, there is a very strong theme when it comes to skin health nutrition, regardless of the unique condition. That is, we want to focus on antioxidant rich high fiber fruits, veg, and whole grains to reduce inflammation and feed our microbiome, lean protein, especially plant protein, and anti inflammatory fats like omega 3s, while limiting foods that are high in sugar or animal fats. And any specific diet restrictions or supplements beyond that should ideally be explored and monitored with the help of a dietitian or dermatologist. But like I said at the top of the show, skin health often mirrors overall health. So when you are fueling your body well, your skin will ultimately benefit as well. And on that note, that's all that I have for you guys today. Thank you again to Dr. Sandy Skotnicki for helping me bite back against misinformation online. Signing off with Science and Sass, I'm Abbey Sharp. Thanks for listening.